I'm John Magnuson, Senior Principal of Magnuson Klemenzik Associates, and I'm here to talk about concept design. A lot of the concept design in our practice, it's about collaboration with the architect and the owner and figuring out exactly what they're looking for. There's no real cookbook approach saying, okay, here's the things you can consider. A lot of it has to do with experience. And like I say, the collaboration, oftentimes bouncing an idea, an architect will bounce an idea off of us, and we may say, what if you were to do this? And then they say, oh, that gives me an idea. And so that back and forth, I think, is really important in developing the basic options that you have. Then you go to the formula and you figure out, okay, which one is best? Sustainability. Every structural engineer should understand the life cycle of structural steel and think about what it means for design. Steel is one of the few building materials that has a closed loop for its life cycle. It's not cradle to grave, but it's cradle to cradle. Now, there's two primary strategies for minimizing embodied carbon in a steel structure. One, it depends on where you source your material. And number two, how much material that you use in your design. Less material means less carbon. However, there are many instances where the least weight design may not be the least cost design. This is an example where some of the potential trade-offs come into play. Sustainability is a really interesting question because ultimately, that's one of the four discretionary elements that I talked about that have to do with choices that the owner makes and how they want to spend their money and what their value system is. Sometimes if we can do sustainability things at no additional cost, it's a slam dunk. We can do it, it's easy. You get into a little more tricky area when the owner is saying, I want least cost. They may not have that same value system about sustainability. Well, they're the boss, it's their structure, and so we have to follow after talking with them about it and talking about the trade-offs, we have to follow their ultimate direction on the discretionary things, like how much sustainability. We never have any discretion on the strength, stiffness, or stability. That's our thing. Now, speaking of cost, that's the next element in the formula. Usually it's right at the top of the client's list. Even if it's not at the very top of their list, they always want to know how much the extra things that they're emphasizing might cost, so say sustainability or other factors in the design. We have some clients that come in saying sustainability is one of their top goals. In fact, a lot of the tech companies right now are saying sustainability is the top goal, more important than even the bottom line construction cost. It depends on the client, it depends on their financial resources too. I think that the most successful projects that we've had is when we've had the steel fabricators and erectors on board early during design. It is such a helpful resource to make our designs better, and we can optimize around a particular fabricator's setups or the way that the erector wants to erect it. Oftentimes the erector has given us, like on our long span structures, the erector has given us really good approaches for the design of the structure. And so anytime that we can have early involvement of the fabricator and the erector, it's really helped a lot. Sometimes the owner, from their procurement strategies, they don't want to have the early involvement because they want to have maximum competition. But from my standpoint, if I were building a building, I'd want early involvement. And last but not least, the final ingredient in the formula is the aesthetics of the structure. Now, this will not be important in all structures, but when it is important, it is usually very important. It can take you to where you achieve the beauty and the emotion of structural design. Now, however, aesthetics are also another good example of some of the trade-offs involved in concept design. If aesthetics drive the design, it may have an impact on the sustainability, the cost, and the constructability.